I think we're going into a very interesting period, a very interesting next year, 5 years, 10 years, where indeed all those things will be offered by normal banks or new banks, maybe MicroStrategy kind of banks. And then even further down the road, there is this end game maybe that the dollar is irrelevant. You will never change anything for dollars. And I don't know how that world would look like, but what's the purpose of exchanging it in dollars, selling it for dollars, or borrowing dollars against the Bitcoin? It's just because in the economy the US dollar is accepted and not Bitcoin. But what if Bitcoin is accepted? What if if El Salvador, with its legal tender, Bitcoin as legal tender, gets more support and more follow-up by, well, let's say a Middle East country?
Picture this. The U.S. government fires up the money printer to fund its growing expenses, but every dollar printed comes with a hidden price tag. Over time, this practice has ballooned the national debt to a staggering $36 trillion. While it might sound like an easy fix, excessive money printing weakens the U.S. dollar, fueling inflation that quietly eats away at your purchasing power. As inflation rises, the value of existing debt shrinks. But here's the catch. Borrowing costs skyrocket. Investors, wary of a weakening dollar, demand higher interest rates to compensate for the declining value of their returns. Meanwhile, global confidence in the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency begins to waver. If countries stop buying U.S. Treasury bonds, the government faces a tough choice: offer even higher interest rates or risk losing international investors altogether. On the home front, money printing wreaks havoc, eroding savings, widening income inequality, and inflating asset bubbles. Stocks, real estate, and Bitcoin become the safe havens for those escaping the dollar's decline. But here's the kicker. Managing the debt's skyrocketing interest payments becomes a nightmare, leaving essential public services to bear the brunt. Let's dive into what Plan B has to say. But before we continue, smash that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe to support the channel. Your engagement keeps us growing. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that it's not talked about and that nobody's willing to do anything about it. Maybe under the new Trump administration, they will do it, but it's going on in Europe as well. The amount of money printing is staggering, and it has been actually going on since 1998. The first crisis when Russia defaulted and the Asian tigers defaulted, and the global financial crisis in 2008. We had 9/11 in between there, and COVID, of course, in 2020. So governments need money. They will keep printing. They have no option. It is madness, like you say. So every institutional investor knows the debt will never, ever be paid off. And I mean, the U.S. had a sweet deal, of course, with the Middle East to buy oil for dollars. And as long as that goes on, that's okay. But I think the petrodollar area is about to end soon, if not already. And the other sweet deal was with China, of course. Well, okay, we outsource all the factories to China. China will be making this stuff. We will be buying it, but we buy it, the US, with dollars. And then the dollars that China gets, yeah, well, you have to invest that in the US Treasury, right? You have to give those back as a loan. Well, as long as China played along, that was all okay. But I think we're at that moment in time where China might stop playing along gradually, never suddenly, but yeah, I think it will stop. Yeah, it's time for something new.
We talked about, obviously, the Trump administration, the unsustainable debt spiral. Many people believe that this debt spiral cannot be solved, that it's already too far, it's literally impossible. On the flip side, you have, obviously, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. They're going to come in and purportedly start cutting things. We've seen Milei in Argentina come in with a hacksaw and take their hyperinflation down to roughly, 2.5% or 3%. Do you think that there are things the government can do to stop this train? Are there enough things that you can cut to solve this problem?
Yeah, well, the 36 trillion or whatever, I don't know where it stands exactly now. That problem,
36.1.
Yeah, it cannot be stopped. It's done. It's water under the bridge. So that has to be dealt with. But the first thing, of course, is to just close the water flowing. So the Doge, you can stop the bleeding first, and that the debt is not growing anymore. And I'm sure Elon will be a master in that. There's so much crazy stuff going on right now in every government in Europe and US. So he'll probably half the
expenditure.
The expenditure, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. But then the debt, that's the second problem. It cannot be solved. Those trillions and trillions, it cannot be solved. So that has to be fixed, restructured. So there has to be a lot of negotiations with the owners of that debt, mainly China. We will not pay anymore, or we will pay half. All those kinds of debt restructuring talks that banks do all the time with people that cannot pay their credit card debt. Those talks have to be going on, have to be started, and then maybe they can pay back 10 trillion, and the other 25, 26 trillion will be a loss for the owners of the debt. Read China.
Magically disappears. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like that, right? If the owner agrees, then the other party agrees, of course.
But at some point, the stock market has to go down 20 or 30%, just because that's what cycles look like. And, unemployment has to go up, and we have to have a recession. What does that look like for Bitcoin at this point, right? You have many people who view it as a risk-on investment. It's just another tech stock. You and I do not count in that category, I would imagine. There's others that price it as digital gold. BlackRock's now out there saying that it's risk off. But generally, Bitcoin does dip when stocks dip massively, right? Especially if it's a black swan event. We know that all correlations generally go to one. But can it decouple, in the event of a relatively long-term downturn in the stock market?
Yes, and I very much agree with that view that risk is not allowed in the stock market anymore, and there's plunge protection teams and circuit breakers and all that. Risk cannot be. Nobody can make a loss anymore. That doesn't mean the risk is gone. The risk just goes elsewhere. And my view, that's one of the things I've been really breaking my head about. One view is that risk goes to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is extremely volatile, especially in with bear markets of 80% plus. That didn't go down, right? Everybody's talking about diminishing returns and all that, but the volatility did not go down over the last 15 years. A bear market has an 80%-ish plus crash, and the volatility in options is still 80, 90, 100% implied volatility sometimes. So in my view, Bitcoin is one of those places, maybe the only place, where volatility and risk is allowed to happen, allowed to live. And with the volatility, with the risk, comes the return. So maybe there will not be a stock market crash. Maybe it will be just, move elsewhere, the risk and the return.
A lot of people say that the more institutionalized Bitcoin becomes, the less volatile it will be. So, do we see a world where bear markets become 50% instead of 80%, or 25% instead of 80%?
No, I don't think so. I think we will see an 80%. You knew that.
So a million back to 200,000, and we're depressed. Great.
Yeah. Oh shit! Bitcoin crashed to 200,000. We're gonna laugh at that tweet one day. It's like that. I think it will be like that, and because everybody's talking about the super cycle, but really institutional investors are also humans. They also have greed and fear, and it's not like the stock market didn't have any crashes, right? In 2008, and even with institutional investors, you have crashes. So I don't think that changes anything at all.
Are you surprised that we haven't seen more institutional adoption and more nation state adoption yet, considering it's been now over 4 years, I believe, since MicroStrategy first bought Bitcoin?
Obviously, there was a lot of inertia in the market, a lot of lagging with all the things you say, and also the Operation Choke Point, where governments are actively working against Bitcoin, but also accounting rules, Yeah, all kinds of investors, institutional investors have mandates, right? They have mandates.
Yeah.
You're allowed to invest in stocks for X%, bonds for X%. There's no Bitcoin on there. And so
There's not even gold, to be fair.
No, indeed. And so even if they want it, they first need to change the mandate. And that takes a lot of time, especially if it's a big mandate with a liability behind it, like a pension fund or a life insurance liability pool. So, no, it takes more time than I thought. And I guess that the people in the institutions, in the banks and the financial institutions, like me at the time, the people that know, that see the obvious arbitrage, that see the enormous risk return asymmetry, they just leave and gonna do it themselves because the benefits are so enormous. Why would you ever do that for? So those people go do it for themselves, or they go pool at hedge funds and just play the market. They arbitrage these slow dinosaurs.
The global strategic reserve, the United States should buy all that Bitcoin before announcing that they've bought all that Bitcoin, or they're just gonna raise the price by double before they get the chance.
And I'm quite sure they do that. They're just doing it under the radar, and they keep doing it as long as possible.
If the United States puts Bitcoin officially on the balance sheet, doesn't every country in the world effectively have to?
Well, the US has one big advantage, and that's it can just print the dollars, right? It doesn't need real dollars. Just print the dollars, buy the damn Bitcoin, and be over with it.
It's amazing, though, that we could be in a situation now where we print money to buy Bitcoin.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're some obscure country, I mean, the dollar is best, but then you can do that under the radar too. So you can just print. Well, Europe is too big, but maybe some small other country, maybe China is doing it. You don't know. Yeah.
As Bitcoiners,
it means one thing: Bitcoin will go up in whatever currency you will denominate it. So eventually, maybe, we should go towards a dollar or a Bitcoin price, not in dollars, but in gold, or anything that cannot be printed, right?
That's a wrap for today's video. What do you think about Plan B's analysis? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insightful videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.